Each cycle, or saculum, lasts roughly 80 to 100 years, a length of a long human life. And each saculum is composed of 4 eras that we call turnings, and that can be regarded either as seasons of history or phases of a person's life. A turning lasts about 20 years or so, and each turning, spring, summer, fall, winter, always arrives in the same order.
64,000 is the median number of words per book. Average person reads about 200 words per minute. Simple math will tell us that is 1 book in 320 minutes. To accomplish this in 7 days, numbers say you would have to read for 45 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button, like, comment, and share. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. My name is Igor S.F. Walker. Today we look at the 4th turning, what the cycles of history tell us about America's next rendezvous with destiny, by Strauss William and Howe Neil. So how about you slow down and relax? Reduce all that noise for just a bit. Make that choice and decide to listen. In this video, we discover the game-changing theory of the cycles of history and what past generations can teach us about moving through times of upheaval. Most remarkably, it offers an utterly persuasive prophecy about how America's past will predict what comes next. Stick around till the end. I will share with you some tools I do have and use that will help you tremendously in this game of life. Discover a way to find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. I will share some tools to improve your self-awareness, your social awareness, your self-management, and relationship management. In cyclical space, once you strip away the extraneous accidents and technologies, you are left with only a limited number of social moods, which tend to reoccur in fixed order. Once each turning is viewed as a constellation of archetypes, each occupying a different phase of life, its mood and direction take on a certain inevitability. Where we once thought ourselves collectively strong, we now regard ourselves as individually entitled. Yet even while we exalt our own personal growth, we realize that millions of self-actualized persons do not add up to an actualized society. The first turning is a high, an upbeat era of strengthening institutions and weakening individualism, where a new civic order implants and the old values regime decays. The second turning is an awakening, a passionate era of spiritual upheaval, where the civic order comes under attack from a new values regime. The third turning is an unraveling, a downcast era of strengthening individualism and weakening institutions, and the old civic order decays and the new values regime implants. Finally, the 4th turning is a crisis, a decisive era of secular upheaval, and the values regime propels the replacement of the old order with the new one. More recently, the West began using technology to flatten the very physical evidence of natural cycles. With artificial light, we believe we defeat the sleep-wake cycle. With climate control, we defeat the seasonal cycle. With refrigeration, the agricultural cycle. And with high-tech medicine, the rest recovery cycle. Before, when cyclical time reigned, people valued patience, ritual, the relatedness of parts to the whole. and the healing power of time within nature. Today, we value iconoclasts, the disintegration of the whole into parts, and the power of time outside nature. See, before people prized the ability to divine nature's energy and use it, today we prize the ability to define nature's energy and overcome it. To do this correctly, we must link each of today's generations with a reoccurring sequence of 4 generational archetypes that have appeared throughout all the secula of our history. Now, these 4 archetypes are best identified by the turnings of their births. A prophet. A generation is born during a high. A nomad generation is born during an awakening. A hero generation is born during an unraveling. An artist generation is born during crises. As in the Old Testament, in the Homeric epics, classical literature abound with provocative bits and pieces of generational cycles, the way early poets and historians, Homer, Virgil, Livy, Thucydides, typically focused on cycles launched by hero archetypes, while sacred myths focused on cycles launched by prophet archetypes, such as those beginning with Abraham, Moses, Lao Tzu, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad. Apparently, ancient societies knew of 2 basic types of generational sagas. One beginning with a martial or institution's founding event, the other with the spiritual or values finding event. It was only a matter of time before someone intuited there might be a historical, not merely a mythical connection between the 2. Polybius went further. He specifically linked it to a pattern of generational succession. In his view, the city-state's first kings are generally powerful and good, but their children so weak and corrupt. Aristocratic rebellion arises amongst the children's peers. Now, the founding aristocrats govern well enough, but their children sink into an oligarchy, prompting a democratic rebellion among their peers. A generation afterwards, the initial democrats' children sink to a mob rule. Ochlocracy, leading to a state of anarchy. And in due course, a new king seizes control and the cycle repeats. Now, some 1500 years later, the dashing philosopher statesman Ibn Khaldun observed a similar pattern in the politics of the medieval Islamic world. The first generation establishes rule by conquest, after which it governs with unquestioned authority. The second generation witnesses and admires that achievement, which it actually weakly emulates. Now, lacking first-hand knowledge of how the dynasty was established, the third generation not only lacks the founders' quality, but actually ignores them. So the dynasty weakens even further. And now, coming of age under ignorant tutelage, the fourth generation reaches the adulthood despising the dynasty, which then crumbles. Out of the chaos, a later generation produces a new king and a new dynasty, and the cycle repeats. Polybius and Khaldun are often hailed as pioneers of modern social theory because of 2 discoveries. First, history moves through stages, circular or linear, of social change. And then second, that pattern, parent-child tensions, provide a motive for pushing society from one stage to the next. When the French philologist Paul-Émile Littre suggested that history moves in a 4-fold progression from moral to industrial to scientific to aesthetic, he likened it to the way generations follow each other. When the Russian novelist Turgenev Ivan published Fathers and Sons, his contemporary readers assumed he was critiquing a theory of social change. Now, no one took this cross-fertilization more seriously than the scholar Giuseppe Ferrari, who wrote Teoria dei periodi politici, a treatise on the generational causes of political periods. Ferrari believed that generational change was the single motive force behind all civilized progress since the end of Roman Empire. His Teoria offers an encyclopedic list of generazione over centuries, grouped into four types of cycles that he insisted were the prime element of ebb and flow in the history of France, Germany, Russia, Italy, and elsewhere. Now, German historian Edward Weschler, he wrote about generations as successions with struggles over worldviews. He identified four classical bases of all perception: thought, experience, and understanding, dating from the ancient Greeks. What he said, they follow each other in a fixed sequence, describing the four types as physical mechanical, rational mathematical, cosmic organic, and ethical personal. A turning is an era with a characteristic social mood, a new twist on how people feel about themselves and about their nations. It results from the aging of the generational constellation. As society enters a turning once every 20 years or so, when all living generations begin to enter the next phase of life. Like archetypes and constellations, turnings come four to a saculum and always are in the same order. The first turning is a high. Old prophets disappear, nomads enter elderhood, heroes enter midlife, artists enter young adulthood, and a new generation of prophets is born. The second turning is an awakening. Old nomads disappear, heroes enter elderhood, artists enter middle life, prophets enter adulthood, young adulthood, and a new generation of nomads is born. The third turning is an unraveling. Old heroes disappear, artists enter elderhood, prophets enter midlife, nomads enter young adulthood, and a new generation of child heroes is born. The fourth turning is a crisis. Old artists disappear, prophets enter elderhood, nomads enter midlife, heroes enter young adulthood, and a new generation of child artists is born. Just like the four seasons of nature, the fourth turning of history are equally necessary and equally important. Awakenings and crises are the secular solaces, summer and winter. Each is a solution to a challenge posed by another. In cyclical time, the society always evolves. Usually the circle is a spiral of progress, sometimes spiral of decline. Always, people strive to mend the errors of the past, to correct the excesses of the present, to seek a future that provides whatever feels most in need. Thus can a civilization endure and thrive. But what causes these cycles? Political scientist Paul Allen Beck suggests that children who grow up during realignments come of age shunning them, whereas children who grow up during eras of normal politics come of age seeking them. The result is one realignment every two phases of life. One type of public energy undermines the authority of government. The other type builds it up. Since youth is the age in which most crime and drug experimentation occurs, these trends leave a special mark on the generations moving into adulthood. Young prophets pioneer the dysfunctional slide. While indulgent elder heroes look on, young nomads habituated to this slide as children later suffer a reputation as under-civilized. Young heroes reverse the bad trends while moralizing elder prophets applaud. Young artists habituated to this reversal as children later gain reputation as over-civilized. The prophet archetype is born in a high, enters young adulthood in an awakening, midlife in an unraveling, and the elderhood in a crisis. The nomad archetype is born in an awakening, enters young adulthood in an unraveling, midlife and crisis, and elderhood in a high. The hero archetype is born in an unraveling, enters young adulthood in crises, midlife in a high, and elderhood in an awakening. The artist archetype is born in a crisis, enters young adulthood in a high, midlife in an awakening, and elderhood in an unraveling. As exhausted nomads replace prophets in elderhood, they slow the pace of social change, shunning the old crusades in favor of simplicity and survivalism. As powerful heroes replace nomads in midlife, they establish an upbeat, constructive ethic of social discipline. And as conformist artists replaced heroes in young adulthood, they become sensitive helpmates, lending their expertise and their cooperation to an era of growing social calm. As prophets replace artists in childhood, they are now nurtured with increasing indulgence by optimistic adults in a secure environment. In every prior fourth turning, the catalyst was foreseeable, but the climax was not. Had those alive at the time applied the above morphology, they would have had nothing more or much to say about the ultimate direction the crisis would take, or about its resolution, or about the kind of world that would result in. But they could have issued warnings about where the gateway to the crises might lie, and about the timing, the nature, and the dimension of what actually lay ahead. As visionary prophets replace artists in elderhood, they push to resolve ever-deepening moral choices, setting the stage for the secular goals of the young. As pragmatic nomads replace the prophets in midlife, they apply toughness and resolution to defend society while safeguarding the interests of the young. As team-working heroes replace nomads in young adulthood, they challenge the political failure of elder-led crusades, fueling the society by its secular crises. And as artists replace the heroes in childhood, they are overprotected at a time of a political convulsion and adult self-sacrifice. The fourth turning harnesses the season of life to bring about a renewal in the season of time. In so doing, it provides passage through the great discontinuities of history and closes the full circle of the saculum. With history as our guide, there is much that we can foresee about what may happen. In every saculum, the awakening gives birth to a variety of individual and social ideals that are mutually incompatible within the framework of the old institutional order. In the unraveling, the tensions between wants and shoulds widen, they polarize, and the crises, a new social construct, reconciles these competing principles when a new and a potentially higher level of civilization happens. In the following high, this contract provides a secure platform on which a new social infrastructure can be hoisted. In the parlance of its time, each of the past 3 crises resolved aggravating value struggles that had been building up over the prior seculum. This time, the individual ideal goals go under the rubric of choice, from marketplace choice to lifestyle choice to choice about manners, appearances, associations, to choice of expression, choice of entertainment. The social ideal goes under the rubric of community and points to where all of these various choices must be curtailed if we wish to persevere strong families, preserve strong families, secure borders, rising living standards, healthy environment, all that other building blocks of the sustainable civilization. By mid-2020s, the generational archetypes will be ready for something new. The 4th turning will be ready to expire. When old prophets weaken, nomads tire of public urgency, and heroes feel hubris. This occurs around the time each archetype stands on the brink of a new life phase. The elder prophets, still leading the culture while vacating institutions, they will worry about the society's new materialism they find alien. The midlife nomads, sensing that the old crusades have run their course, now plan to fortify the community in unity and discipline and narrow the scope of personal choice. The young adult heroes, energized with the success of the collective action, now want to change society from the outside in. The child artists, the gradual youths, in a world of powerful adults, learn to trust the conventions and prepare in ways to help others. By the middle 2020s, the archetypal constellation will change, and each generation begins entering a new phase of life. Once the great champion recedes yet again into history, younger people may still respect, but will no longer heed the old moral imperatives, having been weary of the cost of the principle. If the crisis ends badly, very old boomers could be truly despised. If it ends well, they will bask in grand insomnia of a new golden era that will present the very kind of ordered society in which they actually were raised as children. History is seasonal, but its outcomes are not foreordained. Much will depend on how tall we stand in the trials to come. But there is more to do than just wait for the time to come. The course of our national and our personal destinies will actually depend in large measure on what we do now, as a society and as individuals, to actually prepare. And there you have it, the 4th turning, what the cycles of history tell us about America's next rendezvous with destiny. Now please do help out. It is easy. Simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. Share it too. Spread the word. Do leave a comment and share your thoughts. Start a conversation. Subscribe to my channel. Stay up to date. And the link to this book, it's in the description below. So buy it. Read. Never stop learning, especially learning about yourself and nature. So gift yourself by taking the free human needs test on my website. Find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. And if you feel you are ready to improve your self-awareness, your social awareness, your self-management, and your relationship management even further, well, then do check out my Master of Life Awareness program. The links are in the description below. Thank you. Love and respect.